You can go to Lake Pontchartrain in New Orleans. There's power lines going across that Lake Pontchartrain. You can see the curvature of the Earth right there with those power lines. The curvature of the Earth cannot be even visible until you get about 50 miles up. You can see the curvature of the Earth right there with those power lines. The curvature of the Earth cannot be even visible until you get about 50 miles up. You can see the curvature of the Earth right there with those power lines. The curvature of the Earth cannot be even visible until you get about 50 miles up. You can see the curvature of the Earth right there with those power lines. The curvature of the Earth cannot be even visible until you get about 50 miles up. You can go to Lake Pontchartrain in New Orleans. There's power lines going across that Lake Pontchartrain. You can see the curvature of the Earth right there with those power lines. The curvature of the Earth cannot be even visible until you get about 50 miles up.
Hello, my dear friends, flat earthers, my brothers and sisters in Christ, and my globe friends too. I have some people who still believe on the globe, and we communicate sometimes. So I'm here to answer some of the questions that Dr. Kent Hovind posted on his challenge to flat earthers. Of course, he demands lots of answers. He is not giving many. So I have told some of you guys that I was going to make a video addressing all those globe guys, like the Greater Sapien, the Godless Engineer, Mac Reed, you know, but I don't have time because Kent alone has been putting out so much nonsense lately, that this whole video will be dedicated just for him. All right, I'm going to be answering some of his questions and pointing out some of his mistakes, and there are a lot of them. One more time, I'm not a scholar, I'm not a doctor. I have a master's degree in a science field and a bachelor's degree in an arts, but I will be pointing out here some of his mistakes. I'll be answering some of his questions and pointing out, just like you saw at the beginning, he's kind of confused. Like, you can see the curvature if you go to this particular place, but at the same time you cannot see the curvature until you fly 50 miles up. So which way is it? Right? So as you see here on the side, there are 9 guys. There are no difference between them when we are talking about the shape of the Earth. They all agree they on their belief that the Earth spins on its axis and is going around the sun, and this is a heliocentric model. So there are no difference between them. You see, they may have some personal beliefs different. One some of them says believe in God, some of them don't. But when we're talking about the heliocentric model, they're all alike. There is no difference. Actually, sometimes some of them morph into each other, like Dr. Hovind and Bill Nye. As you see here on the side, on this picture, sometimes those globe believers, they morph into each other because they defend the same thing. So you don't know the difference between, you don't know whether you're talking to Kent Hovind or Bill Nye or Bill Hovind or Kent Nye. You listen to them, you decide what's the difference between them when the top is attacking the flat earth. Please listen to this.
Where exactly is the edge? Has anybody ever seen this dome or the edge of this dome?
There's the whole thing now, the earth is flat. Let's talk about that. Hey, flat earth people, if you're out there, I tell you what, get a car, rent a car, and drive to the edge of the earth. Send us some pictures.
Okay, Kent, now you saw that you got answer for one of your questions, where is the edge, okay? I've seen pictures of the edge. It's pretty difficult to get there as far as documentation, so you can watch a video. Since you spend time watching debunking flat earth videos, spend some time on the research videos and check out Taboo Conspiracy website. He has posted a 30-minute videos showing all the requirements that it takes to go to Antarctica. You can actually never do any exploration there except look at some penguins. So let's move on to the next question. You asked us what makes this dome to stay up. So let's watch the video.
Your flat earth map show a dome over the top. What makes this dome stay up? Okay.
How about some architecture and engineering, Kent? You are a math teacher. If the Romans were building domes 2,000 years ago, and domes have been built ever since throughout the earth, okay, well, why can the creator, the creator of everything, have the capacity of building a dome bigger and stronger and higher than any human can do? So, I mean, if God is all powerful to create the sun out of nothing and the moon out of nothing and the whole earth, why couldn't he build a dome? And, this is called the firmament. It's in the Bible. And, this is actually a silly question. Okay, Kent, you claim that the globe that you're going to be defending is the correct model.
I will defend this model right here, which you can buy at Walmart for $7 or $10. The Earth is a little less than 8,000 miles in diameter. It turns slowly once a day, and it circles around the sun at an orbit tilt 23.5 degrees from its plane of its orbit. I will defend that model against all comers. That is the correct model. Okay.
Earth, throughout its life, even when it formed, it was spinning, and it got a little wider at the equator than it does at the poles. So it's not actually a sphere. It's oblate, and officially it's an oblate spheroid. That's what we call it. But not only that, it's slightly wider below the equator than above the equator.
A little chubbier.
A little chubbier.
Yeah.
Chubby is a good word. It's like pear-shaped.
These images have been put out from your field. So I think you should first get that thing checked first, and then you will be ready really to debate the globe that you claim to be correct. Let's move on to the next one. Now, this whole thing started about a month and a half ago when I posted a comment on one of the Hovind's video. I wrote it's really painful to watch this. Dr. Kent is actually destroying my faith in the Bible rather than strengthening it. I can now interpret anything as I want because according to Dr. Kent, the Bible does not mean what it says, and who is he to tell me which parts are metaphors or not? That's because every passage dealing with flat earth in the Bible, which there are over 200, Kent Hovind claims to be metaphors. So I wrote this comment there, and I got a response from this guy. The picture is right here by my sign, from this YouTube channel, Rude Awakening. He wrote to me, if your faith in the Bible ignores the 241 figures of speech contained therein, you are incapable of understanding the most basic concepts of communication. The Coriolis effect is way over your head, as is understanding the physical universe. Kent does an excellent job explaining reality to those who have an attention span equal to 1/2 of the duration of this video. Holy underwear, Kent, thank you for exposing the moron church. So this guy who claims that I cannot understand the Coriolis effect or the physical universe believes charlatans. Now, you have to watch this video, okay? Please pay attention because Kent is actually showing this video of this guy on the equator demonstrating the Coriolis effect. But please watch this video once, twice, 3 times and pay attention because the guy, they pours the water on one side of the sink, on the left side first, and then he pours the water on the right side when he moves to the other side of the equator to pretend that that's the Coriolis effect. Now, those tricks are done in South America. I'm from South America, Kent. I'm from Brazil. I see guys doing those tricks on the streets all the time. So please, if you are watching this, pay attention on this charlatan making monies off gringos who know nothing about and believe this silly thing that the Coriolis effect takes place if you move 10 feet, 15 feet from the equator line. Please watch this video.
Now, water north of the equator swirls counterclockwise. South of the equator, it swirls clockwise. I'll show you. Here's a video experiment. They put a sink right on top of the equator. This is in Ecuador. Anybody can go down there. They drew a line on the concrete right there behind the person. This is the equator. They're going to pour water in the sink and let it drain on the equator. Now watch.
Ready? Okay. Look yourself. 1, 2, 3. Now look at the lips. Choose straight down.
Straight down. Okay.
Vortex.
Now let's pick up the sink.
Now let's go south.
Go south of the equator. 15 feet. Plug the sink, fill it with water, let it stabilize a minute.
Ready, guys?
Pull the plug, drop some leaves in.
3. Look inside. Here is clockwise.
Why does it swirl south of the equator and not swirl on the equator? Called the Coriolis effect, because the Earth is spinning. Now let's take it north of the equator, 15 feet away from the equator. You can Google, I forget the name of this thing, but just Google, does water swirl north or south of the equator? It comes up, there's a bunch of video clips of this kind of stuff. Okay, we're going to fill the sink with water. It's going to swirl the other direction, I promise you.
1, 2.
Pull the plug, drop in the leaves, and it swirls counterclockwise north of the equator.
So it's really sad to see guys like Kent Hovind, who is a doctor in, I don't know what field he is a doctor in, all those experts, they go to equator and they believe those charlatans who are doing that for money. So please, Dr. Kent, get schooled by Eric Dubay.
Another supposed ball earth proof is that in the northern hemisphere, sinks, drains, toilets all spin one direction, and in the southern hemisphere they spin the other direction, and this is proof that the Earth is a spinning ball once again. However, you can find, even within your own household sometimes, drains will drain in opposite directions, let alone opposite hemispheres. So there's, you can see videos on YouTube of people doing this trick at the equator. They'll set up a sink, and then they'll say, this is the equator. It'll be in Ecuador or something, and then they'll have the water will go down straight, and then they'll walk a few paces, and like, okay, now we're in the northern hemisphere, and the water will go one way, and then they'll fill it up again and go down in the southern hemisphere, do it again, it goes the other way. Everybody oohs and ahs, and they give a little tip to the demonstration and move on to their next tourist destination. What is happening is that the water will drain based on either the shape of the basin or the direction that the water is flowing in originally. So this trick is done by just when you fill the water in, you fill it so that it's already spinning in one direction before you pull the plug. And you always have to quickly pull the plug, otherwise it'll always look like it goes straight down.
Science with a capital S for you right there.
Exactly, yeah. So, I mean, you can test this. There's videos debunking this on YouTube. People have found drains going both directions within their own household. And so now it's just yet another lame excuse trying to prop up a dying model.
Now, as for this guy here in this picture who called us morons because we don't understand the Coriolis effect, I don't think we are the morons, but I'm going to leave this to you. Let's move on to the next question.
Well, first let's define some words like flat. It means smooth and even, without marked lumps or indentations. I think you could take a look just about any place on the world and see it is not flat. There are mountains, okay? Mountain or mountains are mentioned 461 times in the Bible. The Bible does not teach the earth is flat. There are hills. We got one right outside that door, okay? It's only 3 feet high, but it's a hill, right? The earth is not flat. Valley or valleys are mentioned 181 times in the Bible. The Bible does not teach the earth is flat. See, guys, you cannot have a valley if the earth is flat. You cannot have a hill. Hill or hills or the word, when we tried the word up, it crashed the computer. So there's too many of those, okay? So hill, hills, or down are mentioned 1,255 times in the Bible. If you have a hill, it's not flat.
So, Kent, you spent like, 1 minute here trying to define flat when applying to the face of the earth. Now, since I was in high school, when I was 15 years old, we discussed this in class. There was no flat earth back then. We were talking about the globe earth. And water covers 70% of the earth. So several times there was actually a movement back in the 80s in Brazil where they were saying that we should call Earth actually water, the water planet, because 70% of this Earth is actually water. So why not call it planet water instead of planet Earth? So when we say the Earth is flat, we're referring the whole thing. You can see on this map right here, there are huge amounts of water. So what we mean by flat Earth is that there is no curvature, Kent. Waters do not bend. There are no bulges of water over the oceans. I live in Japan. Now, going from Japan to the US by ship, there are no ships going up a bulge of water, getting to the top, and then going down to the US. This is what you don't understand. So you play with words, you try to define a circle, flat, you're just going around, just like you can go around here on this flat earth. This is how you go around the earth, okay? You go east or west, but you don't fly over the poles.
What exactly is it orbiting? And if the sun is going in a circle, it is violating Newton's laws of motion, which says an object will stay in motion until it's acted upon by an outside force. What is the force causing your sun and moon to change directions constantly? Not only does it make a circle, the whole circle moves back and forth with the seasons.
Correct.
That is what you teach. What is the force changing the direction of the sun and the moon? And I want a physical science answer.
If you want a physical science answer for that, we also have some questions that you don't provide us physical science answers. So you quote Newton, all right? So according to Newton, his first law of motion, every object in a state of uniform motion tends to remain that state of motion unless an external force is applied to it. So you have there on your model, this Earth is spinning around and going around the sun and shooting through the universe. What started that motion, Kent? Now we want physical science answers. You're not interested in quoting the Bible up to this point. Why would you bring God and say that God started this motion? We want a physical science answer because you're bringing Newton's first law of motion to the table. So you should be able also to answer the question the same way, with the same coin, right? So what started is, according to your heliocentric model, what started the whole motion in the first place? What? And we want a physical science answer. So, Kent, I have said before, and on my channel, I have said since the beginning that I believe the Bible from cover to cover. I believe the literal account of the flood, Noah's flood. How could that have happened on a ball earth, actually? I want you to demonstrate that. I want you to demonstrate on a model like this ball that you have, how that can possibly have happened. A flood covering a ball earth. Now, I can demonstrate on a flat earth how the flood, Noah's flood, took place. I actually did this. I made an experiment a few months ago. I posted the whole video online, but I'm gonna show you only the part where I pour water on my flat earth model covered by a dome, and this is the only way that the Noah's flood could have happened. Now please watch this. So besides the rain, as the Bible says, the gates of heaven was open. As I pour water into this model, I'm gonna let Will from The Truth is Stranger Than Fiction, he's gonna be reading Genesis 7, where it explains exactly what happened during Noah's days.
In Genesis 7, starting in verse 11, it reads, "In the 600th year of Noah's life, on the 17th day of the second month, on that day all the springs of the great deep burst forth, and the floodgates of the heavens were opened, and rain fell on the earth 40 days and 40 nights. On that very day Noah and his sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, together with his wife and the wives of their 3 sons, entered the ark. They had with them every kind of wild animal according to its kind, all livestock according to their kinds, every creature that moves along the ground according to its kind, and every bird according to its kind, everything with wings. Pairs of all creatures that have breath of life in them came to Noah and entered the ark. The animals going in were male and female of every living thing, as God had commanded Noah, and the Lord shut him in. For 40 days the flood kept coming on the earth. As the waters increased, they lifted the ark high above the earth. The waters rose and increased greatly on the earth, and the ark floated on the surface of the water. They rose greatly on the earth, and all the high mountains under the entire heavens were covered. The waters rose and covered the mountains to a depth of more than 15 cubits. Every living thing that moved on land perished. Birds, livestock, wild animals, all the creatures that swarm over the earth, and all mankind. Everything on dry land that had the breath of life in its nostrils died. Every living thing on the face of the earth was wiped out. People and animals, and the creatures that move along the ground, and the birds were wiped from the earth. Only Noah was left, and those with him on the ark. The waters flooded the earth for 150 days.
Okay, guys, what I want to prove to you is that between the globe model and the flat earth model, if you take the account on Genesis 7 literally, as I do, it could only work on a flat earth model. It's very difficult for me to believe that a whole earth as a globe, could have be filled with water, and how all that amount of water would be attached to the surface of the earth. And of course, you're going to say gravity, so-called gravity, which doesn't exist, is a big hoax. But again, as I pointed out in the beginning, if you're talking about 30,000 feet of water, the strength of this gravity should have been bigger. So how can things fly today, airplanes or hot air balloons or helicopters, up to 30,000 feet? Nothing could lift, go up at all if we had this so-called gravity with hold these extra amounts of water, 30,000 feet, approximately 6 miles or 9 kilometers. So I do hope that this experiment conducted here can open your mind, and you can understand that the Noah's flood could only have happened on a flat earth. There is no way it could have happened on a ball. I struggle as a Christian for many, many years trying to understand how that happened. And once I came to flat earth, I now can see how the Bible opens up to you. You start understanding you understand the Bible in a different way, in a better way.
Okay. From San Diego, California to Holton, Maine is 3,344 miles driving, or 2,745 miles flying as the crow flies, okay? That is the distance from San Diego to Holton, Maine.
Okay, Kent, you got there the distance between Holton, Maine to San Diego, California, a distance of 3,344 miles. I wonder whether you have considered the image, NASA's image from 2012 or 2013, which shows clearly two different sides of North America. But let's ignore that for now. You stated that you are a math teacher, that you have taught math for several years, as we see right here.
Is this the map you're going to defend? If this is not it, send me the one you will defend. And I taught math for years. I can do it with trigonometry or algebra or geometry. I can calculate what distances your little continents are on your map. I want to see your map.
So this same distance that you quoted from Maine to San Diego, 3,344 miles. Kent, where is the curvature for that distance? I have made some, tried to find out the curvature for that. First I draw this little drawing here, San Diego to Houghton, 3,344 miles. You have San Diego, an elevation of 485 meters, about 1,500 feet. Right in the middle, not exactly, but right in the middle, you have this city, Rochester, Minnesota, an elevation of 10,030 feet. And you have Houghton, in an elevation of 390 feet. So according to this, we should have curvature in between those 2 points. Where is that curvature? You're a math teacher, and you know the math for calculating the curvature, which is 8 inches per mile square. So where's the curvature? We see those cities, they are about, actually San Diego is a little higher than Rochester and then goes down to Houghton, which is in the lowest elevation. How could that be? And I calculated the curvature. You go to this website, Earth Curve Calculator. You see there 3,344. You should have 6,459,139 feet of curvature. Where is it, Kent? I'm trying to, you're a math teacher, you're better than me in calculating this stuff. So please, as you demand some answers, we demand some answers too. So gravity is the magic that holds everything together, as we see you saying here, Kent.
If the Earth is flat and the sun is going in a circle around it, what is the force causing the sun to change directions all the time? To make anything go in a circle like that, you would have to have something holding it in. Well, that's what gravity is.
Now, even if gravity did exist, why would it cause both planets to orbit the sun and people to stick to the Earth? Gravity should either cause people to float in suspended circular orbits around the Earth, or it should cause the Earth to be pulled and crashed into the sun. What sort of magic is gravity that it can glue people's feet to the ball Earth?
Gravity sucks, gravity pulls, gravity don't follow the spirit power makes us stick. Gravity is magic.
Gravitation is only a subterfuge employed by Newton in his attempt to prove that the Earth revolves around the sun. And the quicker it is relegated to the tomb of all the Capulets, the better will it be for all classes of society.
Gravity sucks, gravity pulls, gravity don't follow the spirit power makes us stick. Gravity, it's a con trick. It's magic. It's magic. It's magic. It's magic.
I want to see you give me the exact numbers. How high is it? How big around is it? How fast is it moving? Does it change speeds? Because the circle's bigger out here in the wintertime going around the Tropic of Capricorn. So what is speeding the sun up and then slowing it back down? It was constantly changing directions and speeds with your model.
Now, does the sun and moon change speed? Yes, they do. And our good friend David Marsh, he spent 1 year filming the moon on the Tropic of Cancer, on the equator, and on the Tropic of Capricorn. And he has posted his the result of his experiments online. And you're gonna watch here. He posted the videos with the three videos that he put it together, where you can clearly see that the moon goes faster in some of the tropics than the other. Please watch this video.
In the northern hemisphere, you see certain star patterns and constellations. They're different from what you see in the southern hemisphere. If the Earth was flat, everybody in the world could see the North Star. Why can't people south of the equator see the North Star? Why can't they see the Big Dipper? Well, they can see part of it.
That's why Alaska is the land of the Big Dipper. They use that as the...
Alaska is the land of the... You were up in Alaska for...
When you walk out, the Big Dipper is literally right in your face.
Right in your face.
Right there. The whole constellation is, which it is not here.
It's not here. If you take pictures, time-lapse photography of the stars, you'll see them moving.
So you clearly slipped that the stars are moving, and then you try to correct yourself.
Appear to be moving around a spot called the North Star.
But let what is in your heart speak, Kent, not what you have learned on the books, because it came naturally from you that the stars spins over our head, over the sky. And then you try to correct because you remember everything that you learned on the school books and the science books or whatever. So you came like, oh, they seem to be spinning. No, the stars are spinning over our head.
If you go further north, that spot moves higher and higher. Alaska is latitude, let's see, 60, you were up about...
Arctic Circle, right on the Arctic Circle.
So you're 23 degrees off the, okay.
North Fairbanks, right on, literally on the Arctic Circle.
So the North Star, if you get on the North Pole, the North Star is above you up here. Where we are, we have to see the North Star about this angle. How can that be if the Earth is flat? How could the constellations be different?
And this is how the stars really work on the flat Earth, Kent.
Earth is a level, motionless plane with the sun, moon, and stars revolving over and around us just as you experience every day. The North Pole is the magnetic monopole center point, with Polaris, the North Pole star, situated directly above. Polaris is the only motionless star in the heavens, with all the other constellations revolving perfect circles over the Earth every night. The so-called planets, known to the ancients as wandering stars, were named such because they were observed then, as we can observe today, to wander the heavens, taking their own unique spirograph-like patterns, making both forward and retrograde motions over and around the Earth during their cycles. Meanwhile, the fixed stars were named such because they were observed then, as we can observe today, to stay fixed in their constellation patterns night after night, year after year, century after century, never changing their relative positions. If Earth was truly a tilting, wobbling, spinning space ball, as NASA and modern astronomy proclaim, rotating 1,000 miles per hour on its axis, revolving 67,000 miles per hour around the Sun, spiraling 500,000 miles per hour around the galaxy, and shooting off several million more miles per hour through the universe, the star patterns would never look the same 2 nights in a row, let alone be fixed in exactly the same constellations for thousands upon thousands of years. The reality is that the Earth and Polaris do not move, while everything else in the heavens revolves over Earth and around Polaris, east to west, like in a planetarium dome. Our Earth planetarium, however, is so vast that perspective won't allow any observer to see all the stars simultaneously from any one vantage point. We can see Polaris, Ursa Major and Minor, and other northern constellations from every point north of the equator simultaneously, but conversely cannot see the so-called South Pole star, Sigma Octantis, the Southern Cross, or other outer constellations simultaneously from every point south of the equator, because they all sweep over a great southern arc from their rise in the evening to their setting in the morning. Facing north, the stars turn counterclockwise from right to left. Facing south, they turn clockwise from left to right. Facing east, they rise in front and set behind, while facing west, they rise behind and set in front. So their apparent motion, angle, and inclination changes depending where you are on Earth and what direction you are facing. But their actual movement is always east to west.
Now, it's really painful watching this next video because these guys, they claim that Matthew 24 is a metaphorical passage. Actually, what brought me to Flat Earth was Matthew 24. So please, let's watch these two guys speaking first, and then we will comment on that.
The Matthew 24, and it shall appear a sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of the heavens, and power and great glory. So what they're trying to say is that you will be able to see God coming, and all the tribes will be able to see God all at once, and they will all mourn. And that only fits on the flat Earth model, and it doesn't fit on the ball Earth model, or the sphere Earth model. But even on the flat Earth model, you can't see the sun all the time. So even on their model, all the tribes of him won't be able to see him at once. And so Rob Skiba, on one of his comments, said that that's only problematic. Well, if God has to use divine intervention to make himself known to everybody on the flat Earth, then why can't I, as a flat Earther, say he's going to use the same powers that the Godhead has to make himself be seen to everybody? And not just that, I think it's really saying that everybody's going to be seeing probably on the television or the internet just because it's so widespread. You can't walk 100 yards without seeing a
So
TV.
this prophecy could be answered via internet television.
Exactly.
Or God could make himself known to everybody on earth.
Yeah.
Or when it says all the tribes of the earth, sometimes the phrase all in the Bible is only talking about a particular region, like King Nebuchadnezzar was king over all the world. Well, come on, he was only king over that particular region.
Yeah.
So it's certainly metaphorical. That's another word. Never mind. There's a book on that. Go ahead.
So to say that the sun could be seen all over the earth is wrong, because that's according to astronomy. No celestial body can be seen over 3,000 miles, including the sun, the moon, Polaris, okay? Now, of course, that's because they are not as high as the God himself. When the heavens opens up and the Lord Jesus comes down, everyone will see, because number one, he will be much higher than Polaris and the sun and the moon. Okay, he is. So everyone will be able to see, because right now people can't see any celestial body over the distance of 3,000 miles, because actually those celestial bodies are not high enough. So when Jesus returns, he's gonna come down from a place much higher than where the sun and the moon and the stars are. So you cannot say that everybody could see, nobody can see Jesus because nobody can see the sun or the moon. Just realize, you guys are experts, you're pastors, you're missionaries, I don't know what you guys are, and you don't see that, okay? It doesn't take, you don't have to be way more intelligent to realize that God the Creator is way higher than any of the celestial bodies.
The Earth is a ball. It is 7,917.5 miles in diameter at the equator. It spins 1,038 miles an hour at the equator. It goes around the sun, and none of these facts contradict the Bible.
Okay, Kent, you claim there that none of these things that you are defending contradicts the Bible. Kent, all of those things contradicts the Bible. All of them. There is this amazing book written by Nathan Roberts, The Doctrine of the Shape of the Earth, where he lists over 200 Bible verses that support the flat earth. So instead of spending time on debunking YouTube videos like you do it, why don't you spend some time studying some of the literature written by flat earthers, especially in the 1900s. I have seen your website, I have seen people asking you to study those books and read those books. Instead, you ignore all of them and you spend time just watching debunking flat earth videos, when most of those videos are made by people who don't even believe in God. They don't believe in the Bible, and they are mocking. And we are here defending the Bible. We believe that the Bible is true from cover to cover. And of course, there are metaphors, but not when talking about the shape of the earth. Okay, the Bible clearly states that the sun and the moon were created in the fourth day, and they placed there, and they have their own light. Okay, each one of them. The moon does not reflect any light; it has its own light. So all of these are in the Bible. And now your model, your heliocentric model, does not actually have any biblical support. None. Zero. Nada.
For the interview I did with Robert Sengenis, the guy who wrote the book Flat Earth, Flat Wrong. Hello folks, my name is Kent Hovind in Lenox, Alabama, Dinosaur Adventureland. I taught high school science and math for 15 years, and now I've been an evangelist teaching on science and the Bible for many, many years. And we're going to have a special guest on our program today, Dr. Robert Sengenis, who wrote the book on the Flat Earth, Flat Wrong. And I'm going to interview him in a minute here. And then he also was a movie, The Principle, that he did. So I'm going to have Dr. Sengenis tell a little bit about himself, and he's a Catholic. We'll have to work on that later on. But he did a fabulous job dealing with the topic of the flat earth, which is becoming, well, actually, I'm hoping the flat earth movement goes global. That would be appropriate if that would happen. Get back to the globe idea. Okay, Dr. Singenis, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Throughout history, and we as Bible believers, we had a lot of conflicts with Catholics because they actually don't take the Bible literally, or they believe the church is their authority. I will have to bring you in mind, I will have to remind you where you're coming from if you are a truly Bible believer person. I believe the reformers have fought against the Catholic Church over biblical authority, and we believe the Bible is the Word of God. And as Martin Luther said, sola scriptura, so do I believe, sola scriptura only. And you probably spend time in seminars. I have heard that seminars today are run by Jesuits. Actually, Jesuits have been trying to infiltrate the Reformation since its start. Okay, Luther had to fight off those guys pretending to be reformers, but they were actually Jesuits undercover. Martin Luther was, I can say, the first flat earther because he defended right there. He lived at the same time as Copernicus. So he wrote about him. I don't know if you have ever learned this in seminar, Kent, but he did write about Copernicus during his time. He was alive, he knew who Copernicus was, and he knew his agenda. So I need to bring this to your mind. If you don't know where you're coming from, be careful of those alliances with Jesuits who are there to undermine the Bible, to discredit the Bible, and to give authority to men. They defend men's ideas, they're not defending the Bible. So I believe in sola scriptura, just like Martin Luther, and that's why I want you to hear his own words concerning the shape of the earth.
People gave ear to an upstart astrologer, Copernicus, who strove to show that the earth revolves, not the heavens, or the firmament, the sun, and the moon. This fool wishes to reverse the entire science of astronomy, but sacred scripture tells us, Joshua 10:13, that Joshua commanded the sun to stand still, and not the earth. Moses calls heaven that entire watery mass in which the stars and the planets are borne along, likewise the uppermost region of the air. But that scheme of the spheres was thought out by later people for the purpose of teaching. Scripture knows nothing about them, and simply says that the moon, the sun, and the stars were placed, not in individual spheres, but in the firmament of the heaven. We Christians must, therefore, be different from the philosophers, astronomers, in the way we think about the causes of these things. And if some are beyond our comprehension, like those before us concerning the waters above the heavens, we must believe them, and admit our lack of knowledge, rather than either wickedly deny them, or presumptuously interpret them, in conformity with our understanding. How lavishly in this respect have the whole body of philosophers betrayed their stupidity and want of sense! To say nothing of the others whose absurdities are of a still grosser description, how completely does Plato, the soberest and most religious of them all, lose himself in his round globe? What must be the case with the rest, when the leaders, who ought to have set them an example, commit such blunders, and labor under such hallucinations? In like manner, while the government of the world places the doctrine of providence beyond dispute, the practical result is the same as if it were believed that all things were carried hither and thither at the caprice of chance, so prone are we to vanity and error. I am still referring to the most distinguished of the philosophers, and not to the common herd, whose madness in profaning the truth of God exceeds all bounds. The Christian is not to compromise, so as to obscure the distinction between good and evil, and is to avoid the errors of those dreamers, who have a spirit of bitterness and contradiction, who reprove everything, and pervert the order of nature. We will see some who are so deranged, not only in religion, but who in all things reveal their monstrous nature, that they will say that the sun does not move, and that it is the earth which shifts and turns. When we see such minds we must indeed confess, that the devil possesses them, and that God sets them before us as mirrors, in order to keep us, in his fear. So it is with all who argue out of pure malice, and who happily make a show of their imprudence. When they are told, that is hot, they will reply, no, it is plainly cold. When they are shown an object that is black, they will say that it is white, or vice versa. Just like the man who said that snow is black, for although it is perceived and known by all to be white, yet he clearly wished to contradict the fact. And so it is that they are madmen, who would try to change the natural order, and even to dazzle eyes, and benumb their senses.
Friends, I will close this video now. I hope I'll be making more videos soon. I do want to talk about the other guys. I apologize because I wanted to talk about all those heliocentric guys all together, Greater Sapien, the Godless Engineers, and all the others. We don't have time today. I will come back to that video, making another video for the rest of them, but this video I took all the time talking about Kent Hovind today. So I hope I'll make another video soon talking about the other guys. So God bless you guys. I'll see you next time, and stay flat. God bless you.